Deserve to be Washingtonian of the day for that.
I would agree.
Canned Washingtonian of the day. Yeah.
I wasn't sure you were back. I actually had just texted you a little while ago to see if you were back because I'm starting to get calls.
Me too.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Good afternoon, Acting Chair Garrett, Member Vollendroff, staff and guest. The lobbies are open and the recording has begun.
Alrighty. Look like Becky, you're first up.
That's because of sunshine. So good afternoon, Board Member Garrett and Vollendroff. I have a couple of updates. I'm going to keep them short. I know our time's limited. And I want to start with social equity. As you know, that the window closed on April 27th, that we worked with our IT department and business licensing services to get a comprehensive list of applicants that we could send over to the third-party vendor, Ponder Diversity Group. And they sent that over on, I believe, on Monday, May 8th. But so now they have the list. That we also sent a letter to all of those applicants that had applied, just letting them know about next steps. As you know, that licensing will no longer be answering or responding to questions about the application process. While Ponder is in the middle of scoring and responding to those applicants, it's important that we have a very hands-off approach, that we allow Ponder to determine and answer questions regarding what type of documents are needed or being requested. That, as I mentioned, they just received the applications on Monday. So it's going to be a little while until people start receiving an email from those folks. But again, we sent a letter to all of the applicants, letting them know what the next steps were as far as Ponder reaching out and getting a hold of them. I just returned from vacation, so I've just started to receive some emails, and I know that folks from other parts of our organization have also started receiving emails with questions. But I just, I just really encourage everyone to have the same response, and that's to send questions back to Ponder. They're going to receive an email from Ponder that's specific to them. So we can't just start giving out Ponder's email and giving out Ponder's, calling Ponder ourselves, that we've spoken with our AGs. We just need to allow them to do their job. And that's what we've hired them to do, is to respond to questions, to review documents, and determine what meets the criteria and what doesn't. That no longer sits with LCB or with licensing. So I'm going to stop and see if anyone has questions either.
So Becky, it's commerce. Well, two things. So everyone that applied got a letter from us telling them next step and what to expect.
Yes, the only folks that didn't, and we had 12 people that kicked back because their emails were not good emails. And so with those 12 people, Sarah Davis started to reach out to each one of those 12 applicants with the number that they provided, to see if we could get a better email for them. So they were supposed to have a good email. If that email didn't work when we sent out the letter, that's the only way we were queued on it, because the email bounced back to us. Then we started to make phone calls. That way, we could send that correct email to Ponder. And then, of course, the other caveat is if they had if they didn't pay their application fee with business licensing services with a check or an account that was good, and so they had insufficient funds in their account, they would not have been processed.
Okay. And is Commerce aware that everyone got a letter explaining next step? And does Commerce have a copy of that letter so that they can let the mentors know if people start calling the mentors saying, I haven't heard anything? Because I think those calls have started, that they know somebody got an email and somebody didn't get an email type conversations.
I will have to check back with Sarah, but I want to say, I believe Commerce did receive a copy of the email.
Okay, all right. All right, that's all I have.
A quick question, Becky, on the responses. So we're seeing quite a few emails coming into the rules inbox. Is there a standard reply that you're providing with the direction to, correspond with Ponder that we would utilize, or would you prefer us kind of referring those requests through licensing and then a response come out that refers them to Ponder, or how is that set up so we can help with those responses?
Yeah, I believe we sent out a response to all of the directors, letting them know of what language we wanted folks to utilize. We did that with our customer service staff as well. So if
Okay.
not, I'm happy to send that out again.
No,
But
I
it
have
was-
that. I just didn't know if there was something different and more
No.
specific for these general stuff, because we're getting, a lot of variation of questions, but it's just, where do we want to send those? So I'll dig that up and share that with the team.
Okay. Sounds great. And if you have other questions, don't hesitate to ask Dustin. Justin, sorry, I saw Dustin's hand up too. Dustin?
Yeah, thank you. What the instructions or canned language or whatever you want to say, and the guidance that we're going to have for these questions and things that are coming in, can we make sure that gets to the lead support of each division as well? So that we can kind of
Absolutely.
filter those through?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much.
And again, my apologies. I thought we had done that, and I believe communication was helping with that as well. So we will definitely get back to you and make sure everybody has what they need. So a couple other things I wanted to mention was around the cannabis unit that we provided some information to impacted producer processor licensees in the Okanagan County who may want to relocate. We wanted to make sure that we were able and willing to expedite those applications for a change of location. Right now that we've only received one request to relocate. And and again, we've expedited that application. And then one last thing is that on this past week from the 7th to the 9th, that our leadership team for enforcement, so all of our captains in enforcement and all of our managers in licensing, we went off site to do some training together. It's the first time that our leadership team has ever gone away, just our leadership team with those two bodies of folks, that we talked a lot about how to collaborate on training when it comes to rules that are going out, when it comes to new legislation, that where we could do some cross training with one another, that we really did a lot of networking. We did a lot of what was some low hanging fruit that we could begin to make some change in both of our processes, and then to consider some new procedures that both and licensing want to tackle. It was a really good and really, that well use of time that we took off, and as busy as everyone is, it definitely felt like we got a lot done. With everyone as well. And I think that's it.
Thank you. There's no questions. We're now going to move on to Dan.
Good afternoon, Board Member Vollendroff and Board Member Garrett and esteemed colleagues. I have a PowerPoint presentation I'd like to share with you on updates for April for the Enforcement Division. I'll share my screen. Hopefully all this will work. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Good to
Okay,
go,
Can you
Dan.
put it in presentation mode, Dan?
Yep. I'm getting there. There. Okay, so go on to the next slide. So these are counts of licensed industry members. This really hasn't changed from last time. The number of complaints have increased for the cannabis unit, and that was a direct result of the DDE pesticide testing complaints that we received and are currently working through. All the other are pretty much the same.
Hey, Dan,
Also, yeah, go ahead.
this is Jim. Can you go back to that very first slide again? I'm sorry, I was on this one here. You know, it would be super helpful because we see this so frequently. Can you guys start putting like a plus or a minus off to the side so we know whether the licensing numbers have changed from time to time? I mean, I obviously could go back and compare each time, but that would just
Yeah.
give me a quick snapshot to see how many new licensees in any one of these categories have happened since the last time we've seen this.
Sure, that makes
Okay,
sense.
thank you.
Yep. All right. All right. So on education and violations, we are continually seeing an upward trend in the use of the NTC or the notice to corrects, and a lot of that is due to our cannabis consultants going out and using that as a tool for education to our licensees. And we have seen an increase, and as a result of conversations with the AG's office, we are now starting to do some impacts on some advertising. Education breakdown, you'll see again where the cannabis unit is seeing the use of the NTC, and if these trend lines would continue, we'll see a substantial increase for this year for educational opportunities for our licensees in all of the product lines. There's no other than that, as it was mentioned before, there's no real significant trends here on this slide. Same with the education topics. They're pretty much similar to last month's top 5. Also in number 8, violation breakdowns. You know, as you can see, there's an increased trend in the use of the NTC as an education tool for the cannabis unit. Advertising, again, will impact these numbers now that we've reaffirmed the advertising rules with the AG's office. So we're utilizing that NTC as our ability or our tool to provide education to our licensees. There were no vapor compliance checks done in the cannabis unit for April. Basically, they're out concentrating all of their efforts on tobacco and completing the SINAR compliance checks that we contract through with DOH, and that will be up at the end of June. Public safety violations continue to be up there. I mean, we have for tobacco tax, we have our MSA and our tax and filing and shipping reports. And then you'll see that there's mass violations and tobacco product assessments that we send to DOR. The one point that I have to mention on this slide is that for the first time in at least 11 months, the cannabis unit received a straight to formal hearing request, which is almost unheard of. before, and it was a violation for sales to minor. So, which typically would go through Shell Warner or Shell's informal hearing process, but for some reason they went directly to an administrative violation hearing process. Liquor compliance checks took a little bit of a nosedive in April. As far as the compliance rate, mainly due to most likely to probably doing some more on-premise. Sometimes we see that trend for on-premise compliance checks versus the standard off-premise. Cannabis compliance checks, there was a concerted effort in March and February to complete the 2 per fiscal year at each retail licensee. That trend line went down because they in the process of completing those for April. Youth cannabis has really stayed pretty steady at like 80%. And again, we're out there doing the Designar compliance checks, so that those numbers are indicated there. Premises checks, I'll note that the cannabis unit was able to visit almost 50 or at 51% of their licensees through the fiscal year for, at least one contact per licensee per year. ID checks, there was a issue with some of how the data was being captured for these, and that's been corrected. So now these numbers are pretty accurate after some oversight. And this slide represents the work that the examiners have been doing in response to queries or questions from licensees and including officers on different topics such as CCRS. And as you can see, a lot of this work that's being done, especially in CCRS, has a lot to do with DDE and the assessments of what, where product is going and where it's currently at. The FDA second quarter stats, they're still doing their checks, advertising, labeling, undercover buys. Their compliance rates is 78%, which is fairly close to the tobacco tax at 80%. Internal affairs, you'll see that we had at least one founded officer conduct that was taken care of with training. And we continue to see an inordinate amount of vacancies. We're well over 30 vacancies at 35. We've done a few recruitment efforts, which the public safety recruiting efforts that we do when they test are probably one of our better and bigger returns, because like all of those people who are taking those tests are looking for enforcement jobs. So, and as Director Smith mentioned, we all attended the offsite. I thought it was a great success for all included. We committed to continuing endeavors with communication additional team building meetings. We had created some action plans with guidelines and deadlines. And we look forward to continuing that and making that a much better in communication plan. Any questions?
No questions. Jim, did you have any questions?
I have
Thank
none.
you.
Thank you.
I know we gotta be rushing now, but Brian, you're next.
I'll hustle. Good afternoon, members Garrett and members Bollendroff. Just real quick, you heard us talking at the start that today is the Public Service Recognition weekday up on the Capitol campus. And I had co-led an interdivisional team to put together a presence there, you know, a tent and a number of messages about our agency. We focused on agency culture and public health. And we had, I thought it was a great site. We had a lot of people from the agency show up and just hang out and talk with people, as well as many past employees and others came by and all wanted to talk about. We're an interesting group always to talk about, right? And there's always something to look at that someone wants to talk to us about. Dan, I spent some time with acting captain Lori Sigmund. She was great. It was the first time I got a chance to meet with her, and she was up there the whole time with us, as well as many others. So thanks for the support of that and the other members of the team here that were present, and for anyone that could make it out there. It was good. Rick had some special recognition that we'll make sure that he brings up during his time, and that he doesn't, we'll make sure that we point that out, but I'm going to leave that to him. So I'm glad to have that done. And I'm also glad there's another thing I had been leading on coordinating put together a briefing packet for the new director when that person comes on. That is now complete. I have an electronic version that I'll make available to each of the board members. And then Brad, I am at home today or right now, but Brad is printing off a packet that we'll put and make available for you guys to be able to review, that will be available for the next director when they come in. Covers everything from budget, key issues, to org charts, to various things that would be relevant to someone coming into that position. So glad to have that complete, but we're ready to go there. You've already heard all the stuff that's going on with social equity. I remain aligned with Becky's team and whatever we need to do to communicate about social equity. Did some work with Ollie and David individually in the last week or so on that and some additional communications. But we'll be kind of in a holding pattern, I think, for a while now, as Becky said, as we wait on the stuff from Ponder. But we will continue to be vigilant on that. As you've heard me say before about the website, the latest results again, social equity remains in the top 10 of all places on our website that people are going. So we've sustained now, you know, a top 10 for the last 3 months, the key months around social equity. So really pleased about how that's gone with the website and holding that together. Media has been slow, I would say, for the last month or so. Slow for us is a call a day. Always at least 5 in a week. You know, it's a lot for a lot of agencies, but for us, it's something we just got to roll with as part of our regular duties. But just ongoing things that we have right now, as you know, I've heard me talk before about the role with CANRA. I'm now a member of a small sort of a group of people that will act as PIOs or public information folks on key issues with CANRA, and we're meeting up with Jillian here shortly to be able to go through how we're going to be able to parcel out some of that work as it comes through. But we got abbreviated time here, so I'll just end it at that. If there's any questions.
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Justin.
Yeah, good afternoon, members Garrett and Bollendroff. I'll keep this really short since you had some of the updates from my team yesterday. So just wanted to compliment Brian and his team on the PSRW booth that they set up today. Was really good. They had a lot of questions. Mary Sagawa was really a good champion and ambassador down there, walking people through all of the prevention questions. So was really impressive. So wanted to recognize them for that. We had some recent meetings that I thought you should be aware of around the Department of Health has rulemaking open for medical cannabis, part of that program. So we met with the Department of Health and the Cannabis Alliance to talk about some of the impacts on the medical patients. And we had a really good discussion with that group. It's kind of preliminary there at the beginning stages, but I thought you should be aware that we are having those coordination efforts with the Department of Health in that particular area. The other thing that you may have most likely probably not heard of yet, but I wanted to put it out there in open today because we're exploring doing a different type of rulemaking for one of the projects coming forward. So you'll hear more about this as it's unfolding. But just to make sure that it's visible for everybody, there's a rulemaking approach within statute that allows for exception rulemaking. And basically what this is a rulemaking process that's going to be quicker because we're just trying to conform with the RCW that just passed. So this has to do particularly with Senate Bill 5448, which is the allowances for COVID. Since a number of our provisions in rule are going away because of that bill, this exception rule is just pulling those things out of our current rule. And what this exception does for us is it makes it a little bit quicker because there's no policy discussions for us to have in this particular set of rulemaking. And then we'll have alignment when the statute goes active or within days of the statute becoming official in July. Anything else that we would be doing around 5448 will have a separate rule package that has to do with policy. So this is really just alignment with the RCW. So when people see this as a little different because we may have a public hearing that's not at the board meeting and it'll just be run by an individual to gather that feedback. And then we would be coming back to present something. So it's slightly different than the norm. I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of that just to be transparent in that particular effort. But it's really to line up with the statute that just passed. So our rules are not out of alignment with those statutes. And then the last thing I'll put out there is hiring updates. I've been working with HR to get the job announcements prepared for the research program and also Kathy's replacement on the rules manager side. So we hope to have those out in the very near future. So all of that's moving forward. So I'll just stop there unless you have any questions.
No questions.
Thanks.
Tony.
Thank you, Member Garrett and Member Bollendroff. Today, I want to talk about the legislative implementation tracking tool that Mark and Jessica have developed. I can show it to you in June, but it's exciting that we're going to have information about the bills that we're implementing all in one place for the agency to view. We're going to have information about the budget provisos in that same tracking tool. We'll have deliverables and tasks in there that will be updated by the division leads who are assigned to it. And I think it'll be a helpful tool for everyone. And then we can see what other divisions are doing that we might not remember based on the bills and the budget. We had a strategic planning process meeting on May 2nd that went well. We talked about our last 6 months of progress. And we talked about what risks are out there or roadblocks are out there that are preventing us from completing our strategies. We were able to share a lot. Sometimes there are things that some divisions are doing that other divisions don't know about that actually further the strategy in the plan. So that was a good discussion. We will be wrapping up the strategic plan in November. And then we will be drafting our next strategic plan, which in this agency is typically a 5-year plan. We'll work on it in the fall with the new director. SMP is going well. We had 196 people attend the town hall where we demonstrated some of the features that will roll out in June. We're all set to train the trainers and also train the end users on the 3 items that will be rolled out in June. And lastly, I met with Brian, Jessica, and Anita yesterday to talk about focus groups that we plan to set up. Member Bollendroff, Jessica is going to reach out to you because she knows you're interested in those. And we're going to try to get those set up for this summer to talk about the employee survey results and get more information. And so we talked about potentially asking you to facilitate one of the focus groups with Jessica and Jim Weatherly. So we'll have our triple J's leading our discussion. And I look forward to working with Anita and Brian on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Rick?
Well, not only is this my last EMT at the LCB, but I got recognized as Washingtonian of the day by Governor
Yay.
Inslee and Trudy. It
Congrats.
was impromptu. I didn't expect it to come, but it was fun. And, you know, you recognized it, Brian, but I want to thank you, your communication staff, licensing staff, enforcement staff, director's office staff, and I'm sure others that were there that I'm missing, but a really good turnout for PSRW week. And I haven't seen that many of us there. And I know it's been a while, but it was a great event, great weather, so that helped a lot. But really was great to see all of us there, and to see employees that have been with us over the years that are now in different places, who are also there. And several of our employees involved in the business resource groups, the BRGs, that were all there. So it was good to see the involvement of staff there. Really excited to share that in 4 weeks on June 6th, we'll have our annual agency recognition event, which we haven't been able to have for 4 years. And we're just finalizing the agenda for that. It looks like it's going to be another great event with some really interesting speakers there, and look forward to being there with you again on June 6th. Mark is on a well-deserved vacation, our legislative director, but good news to share that I'm sure you're aware of, that those two bills that we worked so hard on and struggled with through the process, the THC bill and the social equity bill, were both signed by the governor, one last week, and the social equity bill, and then the THC bill this week. So good news on that front, and good work by all the staff, all of you that were involved, Ollie and the licensing staff, and Justin and Kathy and everyone involved in that social equity bill, which we've been working on for a number of years. But great to see that move forward. And then, of course, took us a couple of years to do something with that THC bill, but we were really successful. A really successful session for us, including the fact that our budget looks good, but for a couple of things that I know we're working on. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Any questions before we go around the room, if there's any other updates? And Rick, I guess congratulations on your last EMT.
Hey, we're gonna have a really fun. We're gonna have a great time together at the Great Wolf Lodge. I think it's a long
Right.
time coming since we haven't been together, and for many people, folks that are new to the agency who have never been together before. So I'm really kind of looking forward to that day, as kind of like, I think of as almost like my final day with the agency. But yeah, thank you, Golly. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. And Caitlin was at the bill signing, and Becky, I didn't realize she had never been to the Capitol. Oh, these pens that they give out. Somebody wherever we get these pens from, this is my 5th one. They run out of ink right away if you're holding up her pen. But no, Caitlin was really excited, and it was her first time ever being over there. So great pick of sending Caitlin since you were gone. Is there anything else around the table? Jim, did you have anything before we adjourn? I am actually surprised we're not that far behind.
I don't have anything today. Thank you.
Alrighty, with that, we're now adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.